we are in week number 3 of Seek, and we know that is just the way we were created, right? Is to seek and to find, and God created us that way, and he also created a space that only he can fill, and we're going to talk about that this morning a little bit more. But I want to invite you this morning to be a kid in the best way. Just kind of, we're going to go back to my childhood this morning in some ways, but I just want to prepare your heart and imagination to really just think about some things. I'm not going to tell you it all right away, you got to wait, but just prepare yourself. But have you ever wondered what it would even feel like to walk into the throne room of a king? Not a celebrity. Have you ever met a celebrity and been disappointed? They're human, they're people too. Or gone to a concert and been like, something's missing. I mean, we've had some pretty great concerts here because that something wasn't missing. But not a politician, but a real king sitting on a throne with authority and power. I'm sure you'd be paying attention to some things. But I was reminded this week as I was preparing to speak about a story that I grew up on titled Seeker. How fitting for the series, eh? But my children's pastor at the time actually wrote this because she wanted to teach children about Jesus. So just backing it up a little bit. She wanted to teach them about how to know God. So she'd been praying about this because she'd come to know the Lord, not as a child, as an adult. But she's like, how do I explain this wonderful thing to kids? Then she came across this powerful verse in Daniel chapter 11 and verse 32 that says, the people who know their God shall be strong and do exploits. So reading that again, this is the people who know their God, not just believe in him even, not just know information about him, but the people who know their God will be strong on the inside and they will go on adventures. I don't know about you, but if there's anything I've learned is that life with God is not boring. Yeah. So my pastor at the time prayed, Lord, please give me some ideas on how to help children to know you. So she gets this idea about a king and a group of children who live in the kingdom of joy and peace, but they don't really know the king. And our adventure begins. So the story begins with Seeker and his mother. They're heading to the king's weekly celebration. Not so different than our weekly celebration. But it was a time of laughter and good food in the throne room of the king. But Seeker, he'd rather not go. In fact, in the book it says he'd rather go to the carnival of selfishness where they did whatever they wanted whenever. And anyways, that's beside the point. But he would rather do other things. But as the story goes, he finds himself going along with his mother to the king's palace and in the throne room of a king. And there's this moment when the king turns and looks straight at Seeker and winks at him, that something starts to change in Seeker's heart. And he realizes that he wants to get to know the king. Before that moment, he'd heard stories about the king. His mom talked about him all the time. Other people did too. They had opinions about him. But everything changed for him the moment that he stepped in the throne room and saw the king for himself. And that's what revelation is. Revelation goes beyond information. It goes beyond hearing other people talk. But revelation is when you begin to see the king for who he really is. let's jump over to Matthew chapter 16, where the disciples have a moment just like this. So they're in this place, the region of Caesarea Philippi, and it's actually quite a pagan place. It's not full of believers by any means. So they're in there, and at this point, people don't necessarily know who Jesus is or that he's in town, okay? So it says, verse 13, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not overcome it." Yeah, come on. "I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." And then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. I love how Jesus was always about the one and all. You know, he wanted all people. He wanted all people to have that revelation moment of like, you're Jesus. My first point this morning is everyone has an opinion about Jesus. Do you agree? Yeah. A lot of people use his name and they have no idea, but they know there's something to it. But when Jesus asked his disciples who people say he is, they began listing the opinions of the day. So think John the Baptist, Elijah, Jeremiah, prophets, I don't know. But even in Jesus' time, everyone had an opinion about him. So again, that hasn't changed. You might, if you ask someone today, they might be like, "Well, I heard he was a good teacher," or "I'm not really sure. Church people talk about him," or "He was a moral leader." But Jesus presses that conversation deeper and into a personal way. "No, who do you say? Who do you say that I am?" Verse 15 again, "What about you? Who do you say I am?" We're going to go on just a little bit further here. You know, maybe you're here this morning and you grew up in the church, or you grew up around faith. Maybe your parents believed, or maybe your grandparents prayed for you, and that's probably why you're here today, is because your grandparents prayed for you. Or maybe this is brand new to you today. You're like, "Okay, nope, I did not grow up around this." But no matter what, there comes a time for every single person when it needs to go beyond what you heard or what you inherited from your parents, and it becomes something that you encounter for yourself. Because I promise you that everything changes the moment that you see him for yourself. And sometimes we got to borrow the faith of our friends, especially when we're in the wilderness, like Pastor Matt talked about. Sometimes we know the right things to do, but it's hard to do when we're feeling weak. And at the same time, that personal revelation and that personal relationship is what will transform your life. Back again to verse 16 and 17, Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." What a powerful statement. And Jesus said, "Blessed are you, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven." And that's point number 2, is revelation comes from God. You know, sometimes we think we have a revelation, but it's sometimes not from God. Sometimes we can see something that sounds nice on social media and think we had a revelation, but it was actually just We all like to be affirmed, don't we? We got to read the word so that we don't get tripped up, because that's what the enemy does. He mixes truth and dark with lies, truth and lies, and then all of a sudden you're walking in something that is going to lead you on the wrong path. Peter answered Jesus, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Let's keep going here. So again, Peter didn't arrive at this by debate or logic, but God revealed it to him. Information tells us about Jesus, but revelation shows us who he really is to us. Many people know lots of things about God. There's many people that don't believe that have read the whole Bible. But that moment when you feel seen by your Father in heaven is when your life starts to change. You know, a lot of times people can be scared to step foot into church or step foot into baptism thinking, okay, wait, I just gotta clean up my act a little bit more. But I'm gonna tell you that's the opposite way. You'll never be able to clean up your act until Jesus. And that's the thing, when we realize that he really is the Son of God, sent from heaven to earth to die on a cross for every one of us, for every sin that would ever be committed. And yet he didn't just die. He was that ultimate sacrifice, but he rose again 3 days later so that we might know that he is God, but also know that we can have new life in him. He really did die for you, and he really is the King. Over these last few weeks, we've been talking about the journey of a seeker. And first we talked about the call, which is that salvation moment when we say yes to Jesus and we receive that free gift of salvation. And we talked about baptism, that stepping into saying, no, I'm all in for Jesus. And I'm saying goodbye yesterday to my past. Come on, that's what that song's about. Then we talked about the wilderness. We love the wilderness. But those seasons where God stretches us and he shapes us and he grows our faith and where we learn to actually trust him. In Matthew 16, there comes a moment where seeking leads to revelation. Salvation begins that journey. The wilderness deepens that journey, and revelation changes everything. You know, it's so true that one word from heaven changes everything. But imagine again for yourself that you're standing in the throne room of the King, not just a king. You're standing before the one who created the stars and the one who already knows every detail of your life. The one who went to the cross for you. And the King looks at you and he asks you that same question that he asked Peter. He says, who do you say that I am? Who am I to you? Because that moment you truly see who Jesus is to you is when your life begins to change. We're going to take a moment in the service, and I'm going to ask you not to leave because it's not over. And we're just going to turn our eyes to Jesus. And I want you to just take some time within your own heart to say, who is Jesus to me? And if I can ask you to stand to your feet this morning. The words will be on the screen if you want to worship. But if you just want a moment in his presence, I just want to say, take it. If you had a week this week, I want you just take a moment to lift it up. Lift it up to the one who can do something about it. So we're going to turn our eyes upon Jesus. My takeaway this morning is the goal of seeking was never just answers, but it was always the King. It was always Jesus.